Alright boys, we are back, and it's time for the very last video of our Calgary Flames GM mode commentary. That's right, we just finished year 5, alright, it was another successful year, 66 wins during the regular season, a repeat in the Stanley Cup, right, we won the Stanley Cup back-to-back years, and you know what, during these playoffs, we never had to face an elimination, alright, we never went to a Game 7, so a dominating performance by the Calgary Flames this year, right, but it's time for GM Superbman to ride off into the sunset, and it's time to look on how we did as the Calgary Flames during these 5 years, alright? How we left our team for the next GM to come into, and basically just how the job, general manager, was handled by GM Superbman in the last 5 years, alright? So let's simulate up into, I can't simulate any more days, let's see what happens. Alright, so we got, it's pretty much the same thing as last year. Congratulations, in your 5-year career in be a GM mode is now over. Well done. You stayed with the Calgary Flames every year of your career and earned the franchise 2 Stanley Cups in that time. You damn right. In 5 years, 2 Stanley Cups. Pretty good. You ended your career with veteran GM status, which you accomplished in your 3rd year. You completed 144 GM tasks over the course of your career, something you can be proud of, but still strive to beat in the future. Alright, you completed this career in hard skill level, well done. Try picking other teams at the start of your career or try to beat your existing records for the tasks earned. Thanks for playing. Alright, no problem, no problem. Alright, so I don't think, okay, so we're stuck here on Friday the 16th, June 16th, alright, so we cannot simulate up any farther, alright, so we can't check out the retirements, we can't do anything like that, but from this screen, we're going to do a whole review of our franchise, okay? So first things first, let's just check the awards. Alright, because I know you guys want to see the awards. Let's just check out the awards, alright? So the last 2 years, the Calgary Flames, we repeated back-to-back. We made it to the Stanley Cup Finals for the 3rd year in a row, but in 2014-2015, we lost to the Toronto Maple Leafs, alright? But still, the dynasty is in place for our team. Alright, President's Trophy. Oh, I thought we won the President's Trophy 3 years in a row. It's only been 2 years in a row. Alright, that's okay, though. It's still really good. So the last 2 years, we've really started our dynasty. Clarence S. Campbell, yep, we've made it to the finals the last 3 years in a row. Alright, and we faced 3 different teams in that time. Art Ross trophies, Sven Barchisi, alright, he has really turned out to be a superstar for us. Alright, he got the game-winning goal in overtime this year, so he's basically done it all already, and he's still in his early 20s. Alright, Hart Memorial, Sven Barchisi, alright, he took home some hardware this year. James Norris, Daniel Girardi, alright, Lady Bing, Sven Barchisi, Calder Memorial, Mikhanov. Alright, Conn Smythe, Leland Irving, 2nd year in a row. Even though, even though Dubois started, 8 games, Leland Irving, a shortened playoff schedule, he still comes in and he still wins that Conn Smythe. Alright, so Leland Irving, good job, buddy. Vezina Trophy, Ryan Miller. That's only because Irving and Dubois split so many games. Miller probably played a lot more games, that's why. William N. Jennings, Leland Irving, alright, and Alex Dubois. Alright, those are the goalies that played for the team with the less goals against the last 2 years. Both of our goalies, so that's good. Bill Masterton, Marc-Andre Levesque, alright, Frank J. Selke, Sidney Crosby, Ted Lindsay, Ryan Miller, Maurice Richard, Alexander Ovechkin, 3rd year in a row. Alright, so there you go. There's the awards. Now, is there anything else I want to check? I don't need to check out the stats. Don't need to check out any of that stuff. Coaching options. I know I want to check out, so there's nothing in coaching options. GM options. I definitely want to go into contracts. We're not going to go into contracts just yet. Alright, just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Compensation, no. Alright, so we'll go to contracts, but we'll do that to end the video. First off, let's check out how we produced over the last 5 years, alright, with our GM, our career statistics, basically, alright? So, we started off with the Calgary Flames the first 2 years not qualifying for the playoffs, but remember, we were going along to plan. I remember in year 1, our plan was to sacrifice the first 2 years, Year 3, possibly be a competitive team, but then by years 4 and 5, be a Stanley Cup contender. Alright, that was our deal. We were going to give up the first 2 years, try to be a competitive team by year 3, alright, try to be a playoff team by year 3, but it wasn't written in stone, but then years 4 and 5, I really wanted to be a good team, alright? So the first 2 years, yeah, we know what was going on. We were 15 and 60 the first year. We turned it around great by year 2. I mean, 30 and 46 year 2. All right. We got some great draft picks those years. All right. We were able to get Hunter Shinkaruk. Who else did we get? There's some. I gotta look at I gotta look at our roster to be able to look at that. All right, Sam Reinhart, he was another one. We picked up a lot of good young rookies because of those horrible first 2 years. All right, but then we really turned it around. I mean, year 3, the year that I just wanted to try and make the playoffs this year. We made it all the way up to the Stanley Cup Finals. All right, 99 points on the regular season, so it's not like we came close to winning that President's Trophy. All right, but it was still a really good year. 253 goals for, 220 against. All right, made it to the Stanley Cup Final. That year 3 was definitely the turnaround year. All right, all of our fans were thinking, all right, you know what? We've turned this around. We got a young team, and we're making the finals. Hell yeah, the future's looking bright. And how right were they? I mean, look at this. Years 4 and 5. All right. I mean, years 4, 120 points. You think that's an amazing year. We win the President's Trophy. We win the Cup. All right. And then we come back this year with an even better season. All right. We had 14 more points this year. 66 wins on the regular season. Same amount of goals for, but the goals against got a little bit better. And we won the Cup again. All right. So, I wouldn't say that we're a dynasty just yet. If you're going to make the argument that we are a dynasty, we've just become a dynasty just from that Stanley Cup ring. All right, 2 President's Trophies back-to-back years, 2 Stanley Cups back-to-back years. All right, Stanley Cup Finals 3 years in a row. You could make that argument that we're just turning into a dynasty, but that's all I'm going to give us. We're not a dynasty like on paper just yet. I mean, we've just started our dynasty. We would have to have another good year this year, because if we had a year where we got kicked out in the first round, well, then the dynasty kind of goes to shit, right? I mean, in real life, the Vancouver Canucks, they've won the President's Trophy back-to-back years. Are they a dynasty? Well, not really, because they're missing out on those cups, right? So we do have the cups back-to-back years. We do have the 2 President's Trophies back-to-back years, but to me, a dynasty has done it 3 years in a row. All right, we've had 3 good years in a row, but not 3 dominating years in a row. We've had 2 dominating years in a row. So our dynasty is just starting. All right, I'll give it like that. All right, but I'm not going to add up all the points and all the wins, but just look how we've turned it around. 15 wins to 30 wins to 45 wins to 57 wins to 66 wins. So, I mean, we've always been getting better. All right, even our goals for always been getting better. Oh, excuse me. Our goals against. Our goals against always been getting worse. Well, not getting worse, but getting less, which is getting better. All right, so we've just been a team that has been slowly but surely getting better, sticking to the plan, not changing anything. All right, some solid free agent pickups, some solid progression by our rookies, some solid goaltending by Leland Irving, and we have the beginning of a dynasty, basically. All right. So there was our statistics. Let's check out our contracts. Let's see how our team is looking, basically, all right? So, goaltenders. We'll start off in goalies. Now, again, boys, because I can't simulate to the end, I don't think it switches over where everyone gets better because of the next year. I think that happens when the retirements happen, all right? So, again, we're looking at our players, and they haven't gotten better for next year. So, guys like Subban, I mean, Subban could still get a lot better this year. Dubois could get up to like a 90 overall this year, all right? So, it's kind of hard to say, it's kind of hard to see how our guys are looking going into next year because they still haven't made that jump yet, all right? But we can still kind of guesstimate, all right, or swag it, a scientific wild-ass guess. We can do some of that stuff. So Subban, I'd say, maybe if he takes a big jump, gets to the 80s, but I'd say mid-70s, high 70s for sure, 78 overall, all right, being a 23-year-old goalie. He's going to be a goalie from the age of 25 to the time he retires. So he's going to have a solid 10 years in him, maybe, 10 to 15 years in him if he stays around for a while. But he'll be a starting goalie to an elite goalie by the time he's 26, 27. All right, and then you have him for 10 years as an elite goalie. So he is still there for us, all right? But Dubois, I think, is definitely our goalie of the future. 22 years old, 87. He looks like he's going to jump to 88, 89, 90 overall for next year, all right? Leland Irving, he's only 29 years old, so he still has at least another 5 years in him, all right? And he's 84 overall. I know that doesn't look like a lot, but he's been able to get it done. So goaltender, the next GM has nothing to worry about. He has to sign Alex Dubois in this offseason, all right? But he's going to have $17 million of salary cap to work with. I really don't see him running into a problem. And if he wants to, he can trade away Leland Irving this year to free up some cap space. But that's the thing. The next GM has no goaltending problems whatsoever. If I was in his shoes, you keep Irving because you got him 4.4. As a Conn Smythe winning goalie at 4.4 million, that's a steal. All right? You try to sign Dubois. You hold on to Subban for another, I mean, you still have Subban for another 2 years on his minor league contract. So you keep Subban for another 2 years, and then you decide what to do with him when his contract is up. All right, and then maybe you sign or you trade away Irving in 2 years, and you go forward with Dubois and Subban as your 1-2 punch. All right. But that's the thing. The next GM has nothing to worry about goaltender-wise except for signing Dubois this year. All right, that's the only thing he has to worry about. But the Calgary Flames, they have plenty of goalies, all right? Next, defenseman. Duncan Keith, he was a great signing, especially with all the injuries that we had to deal with in the playoffs. This guy was a great signing for us. 90 overall, $5.5 million is a steal, all right? But he's going to want a big contract this year, and I don't expect the GM to be able to sign him, all right? Remember, when we traded for him, it was a one-off deal. If the GM could sign him this year, then it would be a great deal. But I expect him being 90 overall, 33 years old, he's going to want at least $8 million, at least $8 or $9 million, all right? So that's an extra $4 million you're looking at right there. All right, so he might not be able to be signed. He may be, but I don't think so. Morgan Riley, you go into the future with Morgan Riley. You still have him signed for another 1, 2, 3, 4. You still have your captain, Morgan Riley, signed for another 4 years at 88 overall. All right, so he's really good, 23 years old. Brody, 86 overall. He's listed as a second liner, but you can throw him up on the first line, a first line power play guy. All right, he's signed for another 2 years. All right, you might have to trade away Brody because in 2 years because his contract is 3.3. He's definitely going to want like a good 5 or 6 million after that. All right, so he's a steal for the next 2 years. Ryan Murray, we have him signed for another he's signed the same amount as Morgan Riley and only $3.5 million. All right, so you're going into the future with Riley, Brody, Murray. Griffin Reinhart, 85 overall. Now remember, during the offseason, these guys could jump up to like 86, 87 overall, 88 overall. So it's hard to say right now, all right? But he has to sign Dubois. He's got to sign Griffin Reinhart this year. He still has Ryan Murray for another 4 years, but he's got to sign Griffin Reinhart. Krestanovich, he looks like he could jump up to like a 83, 84, 85 overall, which would be great. All right. We still have Krestanovich for another year, but then he would have to be signed next year. Ristolainen, he looks like, again, he could jump to an 81, 82, but because he's getting all that top 6 defenseman time, he's always going to be hovering around 80 overall, all right? So he's signed at 1.5 for another, again, you have Morgan Riley, Murray, and Ristolainen all signed for another 4 years, all right? And it's at 4.6, 3.5, and 1.5. So you definitely have 3 defensemen for the next 4 years, all right? And then you just have to sign Krestanovich, Griffin Reinhart, and then you have to decide if you want to get Duncan Keith back, which I don't think you could do. But then you have guys like Volkanen, who's going to be higher 70s after this year. Lysenko, mid-70s. Severson, mid-70s. All right, all these defensive prospects coming up. Murphy, we wouldn't re-sign this Murphy guy. All right, but you have a good 5 defensemen who you know you can play next year, and then you have to make the decision with the 6th defenseman. Duncan Keith, Volkanen, Lysenko, or Severson. All right, so they definitely have enough defensemen in place, and there's no crazy contracts. You just have to sign Griffin Reinhart this year. All right, so far it's just Griffin Reinhart and Dubois. Right wingers. Now, Joe Pavelski. You got to re-sign Joe Pavelski this year, but I wouldn't say he wants too much more than he's already making, 5.6. I'd say you could probably sign him for the same amount, all right? Joe Pavelski, you got to re-sign him. He's only 32 years old, so you still have him for another 3-4 years, all right, as your second-line center, and him and Shinkaruk work really well together, so you got to re-sign him. Blake Wheeler, you don't have to re-sign him. He's only 80 overall, so again, a good 4th liner. You'd be able to re-sign him, no problem. Holloway, you could re-sign for playoff purposes, all right, but you don't have to. Toffoli looks like he could be in the 80s overall for next year, so some depth right there. All right, Andrechuk, nothing too special. Barchisi signed for the next 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's just signed just like Morgan Riley and everybody for another 4 years at $6 million, 88 overall, so he's a steal. All right, Shinkaruk, same thing, 6 years. But he's up for 6 years at $6 million. All right, so you have your 2 studs up front, Barchisi and Shinkaruk, locked up for long term, so the next GM doesn't have to worry about that. Kreider, 4.9 for the next few years, all right, that's not bad. Gerby, 3.6 for the next year. You could trade him away this year if you're running into problems. If you want to re-sign Keith, that might not be a bad idea to trade away Gerby right now. And his salary is low enough that you could, all right, but you have him signed for another year if you want to hold on to him. Furlan, you could sign for a 4th liner. Pete, he looks like another young gun. All right, 3.5 stars. Spencer. All right. Centers, you got Sam Reinhart, who looks like he's going to get better this year. Still one more year before you got to re-sign him. Galchenyuk, you have signed for a few more years. All right, Max Reinhart, you got to re-sign him again this year, but he's only 78 overall, so he's not going to want too much more than he's already making. Wheel, you probably won't be able to sign Wheel unless you want to play him this year. He looks like he's a tender qualifying offer trade. All right, Patrick Kane, you got Patrick Kane until you want to trade him away, basically. All right, we have him until he's like 35. All right, and he's going to stay good. So, yeah, his contract is a little bit much. If it comes to a day where you want to sign these young guns, then you trade away Patrick Kane. All right, but it would not be hard to try and move Patrick Kane. All right, so, again, we can keep Patrick Kane, but if you want to trade him, you can trade him. Jason Spezza, however, he's 34 years old. He could maybe drop this year. I could see him staying the same, all right? He's only at $6 million for another, three more years. So technically you could keep him until he's 37 and he would still probably be 85, 84 overall, which would be decent. All right. But again, the same thing as Patrick Kane. You keep these guys until you run into salary cap problems and then you trade them away. But Jason Spezza is still our first line center. Remember that first line with Jason Spezza, Barchesi, and Kane have been outstanding the last 2 years. So you do everything you can to hold on to that first line. Jason Spezza, he's only 34. I would hold on to players till they're 36, 37, and then you trade them away. All right, so Jason Spezza, another 1, 2, 3 more years. I keep him for another 2 more years till he's 36, and then trade him in his 37th year. All right, because he would still stay good. And Salainen, yeah, we got to re-sign Salainen this year, so that would free up some salary cap as well. All right, so there you go, boys. I mean, pretty much every position we are covered. Goaltenders, we have 3 goalies of the future. Defensemen, you know what? Let's see if we can re-sign Duncan Keith right now. Let's see if we can make that re-sign. All right. So if this is the offseason, all right, we're going to have $17 million to work with, all right? Now, let's just go by the players that we know we have to sign. Severs, okay, so if we're just signing Duncan Keith here, all right, so I'm going to overextend. Duncan Keith, I'd say after wheeling and dealing, I could probably get him for at most $9 million, all right? At most $9 million. So I'll say $9 million for Duncan Keith. So we're down to $8 million right now, all right? Joe Pavelski, $6 million, all right? So we got like $3 million left. Holloway, Salainen, Reinhart, we got to re-sign. It wouldn't be too much. Griffin, Reinhart. All right, so you're pushing it. What I would do, I would trade away Nathan Gerbe, all right, free up that $3.3 million, and then you'd be able to sign Duncan Keith and fill up your top 6 in defensemen. You sign Griffin Reinhart, so there's your 6 defensemen, all right. Severson, Lysenko, you give these guys tender qualifying offers if you can't give them 2-way contracts, all right. You re-sign Pavelski, you let guys like Blake Wheeler, Holloway, Salainen go, and you basically give those 4th and 3rd line duties to young guys coming up like Toffoli, Wheel, all right, sign them for like $1 million contracts, all right, and I think you would be able to keep everybody on the team, all right. Your forwards, your top 6 would still be the same, Barchesi, Kane, and Spezza on the first line. Your second line would be Shinkruk, Pavelski, and then you figure out Galchenyuk and Sam Reinhart again, all right. Eventually, Sam Reinhart and Galchenyuk will be up on the first or second line, but they would take over for Kane and Spezza, all right, because Pavelski is that second line center. You got to keep Pavelski there because of his face-off rating. All right. So Galchenyuk and Reinhart, they both belong in the first and second line. But again, Galchenyuk's 23, Reinhart's 21. You can keep them down there for another 2 years, and then when they're 24, 23, then you put them on the first line. They still have 10 years at first line duties. All right. So yeah, that would be our top 6 right now. Our third line would be again either Galchenyuk or Reinhart, Kreider, and you trade away Gerbe. You trade away, but then Wheel comes up, all right? And you fill out your 4th line then with like Salainen, Holloway, Max Reinhart, Furlan, Toffoli, Pete, Andrechuk, all right? You fill them up with all these other guys, and you let the older guys like Wheeler, Gerbe, the guys who want money, you let them walk off your team. I think if you did it this way, the next GM could hold on to basically all of their defensemen. They could go into next year with Duncan Keith, Morgan Riley, Brody, Murray, Reinhart, and Krestonovich, all right, as your top 6. All right, and you have Ristolainen in there as well if you can't sign Duncan Keith. But I think you're fine, and then you hold one of those guys on for an injury for a playoff run. All right, and then forwards again. I showed you our top six is the most important. Our top six would score enough goals anyways. We would have a bit of a weaker third and fourth line this year. As in comparison to the 2 years where we won the Stanley Cup, we had a lot of depth, but you'd still be able to hold on to all your superstars for at least another year, and then next year the year after that you trade away Duncan Keith. Actually, you know what? You'd have to make another trade. I forgot about Dubois. You'd have to make another trade to re-sign Dubois. So you'd have to give up Gerby and then maybe somebody else. All right, maybe Duncan Keith would have to go. All right, or maybe Irving would have to go now to hold on to Dubois and Subban. There's about, man, I wish we could just try it just to see if we could hold on to everyone. But for the most part, if I have to say it, for the most part, the next GM is going to be fine. There's just maybe one player, at most one player. I think you'd be able to re-sign everybody, but at most, there's going to be one player who you'd have to get rid of, who you wouldn't want to get rid of. Maybe a Kreider, because he's a third liner at 4.9 mil. All right, maybe a Kreider and a Gerby, and then you fill up everyone else. All right, and I think you'd be able to be a very competitive team next year. And for everyone who's wondering about Dubois, saying that I'm stunting his growth, boys, he's 22 years old. All right, he could still be the starter and go from age 23 to 38 as the starter. All right, that's 15 years. All right, name me another goalie who gets the starting job from day one when he gets drafted. All right, he was competing with Irving. He still has a whole career ahead of him, so don't worry about Dubois. All right, he's still only 22 years of age. So there you go, boys. I think the dynasty, you can still win the Stanley Cup next year. You can still win the Stanley Cup the year after that. All right, but definitely by year 4, after I'm gone, that year where you have to re-sign Morgan Riley, Barchese, Shinkruk, you have to re-sign everybody, I think that's the end of the dynasty. So I think the dynasty has been going on for 2 years now. I think it has another 4 years, all right? But then it's got to be changed, because in the next 2 or 3 years, Spezza, Kane are going to go, Pavelski's going to go, and then by that year 4, you might see guys like Barchese, Morgan Riley, Galchenyuk, all these other guys start to go. So I think for sure you have another year or 2 with the current team, with the full dynasty, with the Kane Spezza dynasty, and then another 2 years after that with the Barchese, Shinkruk, Morgan Riley dynasty, and then, I don't know, I think the team gets broken up, all right? But for right now, there you go. So there you go. I don't know, we're kind of all over the place, but yeah, man, I think that we've left this for the next GM in a perfect situation. He has to just make one hard decision: Kreider, Gerby, or Irving. All right, 2 of those players have got to go. Kreider, Irving, or no, sorry. There's 4 players that can go. Well, there's 4 possibilities. 2 players that have got to go: Irving, Kreider, Gerby, or Duncan Keith. That's all the GM has to worry about. Pick 2 of those players out of those 4, and you've got your team for next year. All right. So there you go, Calgary. I don't know which team we're going to be doing for the next GM mode commentary. Don't worry. I will make a video letting you guys vote on it, just like I always do. All right, we're going to go back to the Eastern Conference. I think I want to do a competitive team already. I don't want to do a rebuilding team. So we'll do a competitive team. I think I'm going to take a week or 2 off of the GM mode commentaries because I have other stuff to do. But don't worry. I'm never going to stop the GM mode commentaries, all right? So you can give me some opinions on who we should choose, but I'm thinking a competitor or a competitive team out of the gate, all right? None of this 5-year rebuild. All right, boys? So there you go, Calgary. I hope I made your city proud. Take it easy, boys.